what the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I just wanted to repeat that again for people who did not hear. 45 centimeters of snow is now it's in the forecast for Sunday. Just thought I'd bring that up.
Who's saying 45 now?
Yeah, 45. Just now. Anna Dextrine at the Weather Center. 45
really?
Is the latest, yeah.
I don't know about that. I woke up this morning, they were saying 30. Now they're saying 45.
Yeah, that's how things change.
And they said 40, and it was a 30.
All right, don't question the weather people. They're doing their best.
It sounds like the political party making promises there, Aaron.
All right,
oversell.
Let's start with that, the political party stuff over here. So first of all, I guess I'm not sure how Francois Legault handles this. I know we were talking yesterday about the way he's getting sort of, raked over the coals for what he did going to Washington and offering concessions on things that he hadn't even spoken to people in industries about. But now the issue is over this whole idea of pipelines, right? And it's interesting because the word he always uses, I guess, Jim, is right. There's been no appetite for this in the past. But now, given what's going on in the U.S., that's beginning to change.
Well, I'll tell you, buddy, actually, the expression he has liked to use is social acceptability. Okay? There is no social acceptability in Quebec for pipelines. There is no remember he referred to Alberta's dirty oil?
Yeah.
But the problem is, I guess the advantage is I've been doing this show ever since it started, and we've talked about everything on earth, Aaron, probably twice. And at least on 2 occasions, I have spoken to you about surveys because they're making a big deal about this Stone poll in the press this week. Oh, Quebecers, the scales have fallen from their eyes, and 60% are in favor of a pipeline and Energy East and the GNL project. And on at least 2 occasions in 2023, and God help us, 2017, surveys conducted for the Montreal Economic Institute indicated that 60% of Quebecers were in favor of pipelines being run through the territory of Quebec. So maybe it isn't so much a matter of social acceptability, Aaron. Maybe it's more a matter of separatist acceptability. Don't forget, when you want to create your own little nation, when you're cosplaying that you're head of the Quebec nation, the idea that Canadian money, i.e., in your opinion, foreign money, is literally going to be sunk into the nation is not a very good idea. Plus, what happens if Quebecers really do start getting, revenue based on the fact that, if we're selling oil, we're making, government's making money on royalties and so on and so forth, that indeed our tax burden, which in Quebec is among the highest perhaps in North America, might actually go down. So what you want to do if you're Francois Legault, or indeed if you're Yves-François Blanchet, and say the majority of Quebecers, do not favor this. Well, you're going to keep maintaining this the same way you keep maintaining you speak for the majority of Quebecers, even though poll after poll after poll. And I'm not saying because they can say, well, the Somme thing's an outlier. We've talked about it twice on the show. 2 times, as I say, 2017, 2023, the same numbers for Quebecers were in favor of pipelines. So this idea that suddenly Quebec has had a come to Jesus moment thanks to Mr. Crazy Pants down in the White House is not true. There has always been this reality that Quebecers who love their cars, who love their SUVs, who are among the biggest consumers of these models of vehicles in North America, know they run on gas. And guess what? If they can get cheap gas, they're going to be in favor of it. So spare me dirty energy, spare me social acceptability. It's just cheap politics. And thank goodness, and here's something else we can thank Donald Trump for, a lot of the wheels on the hypocrisy bus that has been driven around by politicians of all stripes in this country are beginning to fall off.
I have a question, though. You bring up an interesting point, right? We're talking about this now, but it's been talked about on and off for years and years. But I imagine just simply based on that, Jim, we must have a template somewhere of how it would work if this pipeline were here. We don't have to start from scratch, do we?
Well, absolutely. The idea was to bring it through it. I remember the Montreal Metropolitan Community, which was headed at the time by Denis Coderre, turned around and voted against it because there could be a spill, because the idea was to pipe it through, and I think it actually went through Montreal to one of the terminal would be, I don't know, in Contrecoeur or around, eastern Montreal. I don't have the map in front of me right now. Yeah, but the plan exists. This is not the idea that we have to start from scratch. It is all there. Same thing with the GNL project, which we have discussed at length on this show. You pipe it in from Alberta, liquid natural gas. You ship it up to a terminal up on the Saguenay, And then you've got these big, massive Starship-sized tanker trucks, and ships rather, and you fill those up, and they come down the fjord, go to the St. Lawrence, and we can start shipping natural gas to a natural gas-starved Europe, which has got Russia's boot on its neck. So, there's money sitting there waiting to be scooped up. Maybe now, because of certain political ramifications, social acceptability may have increased there, and who knows? But these are crazy days. You wake up each morning, and the whole world's changed.
Sure seems that way, doesn't it? Listen, I would ask, since we're talking about politics here, you brought up the PQ and how things might change. And it seems to me this whole idea of the Terrebonne by-election, was a gimme, but there are no more gimmies, it would seem, when it comes to any kind of polling anyway. So is this good news, bad news for the PQ? Do the CAQ have a chance again here?
I think it's interesting news for the Liberals if they don't bungle it. I think it's interesting news for the PQ if they hang on to it. Listen, Terrebonne riding had voted PQ since 1976. Yes, many of us remember that as a pivotal year in Quebec history. That's when the PQ formed the first government. So c'est pas du nouveau là-bas. But what happened? In 2018, I guess the people of Terrebonne, like a lot of people in Quebec, got fed up of the whole separatist federalist dynamic and said, to hell with you. They voted for a guy named Pierre Fitzgibbon representing the CAQ. So he wins. He takes the riding away from the PQ in 2018 and again in 2022. So we ask ourselves the question now that he has turned his back on, Fitzgibbon clearly turned his back on the CAQ, and they are not doing well in the polls. But we are now in a how can I put it, a very realpolitik phase of Quebec politics, wherein you can't hide behind ideology, you can't hide behind transfer payments and say the most outrageous things anymore. A lot of Quebecers are looking at their politicians, expecting them to perform, expecting them to be able to deal with Donald Trump. Not find excuses for what they did, but to deal with them and deal with them in their favor. I'm not entirely sure the Liberals are going to be going into that by-election like, lambs to the slaughter. The Liberals do enjoy, even grudgingly on the part of Quebecers, a reputation as the party of business, the party of the economy. Do you want to hitch your wagon, A, to the CAQ, a party which everyone seems to find reasons to hate, or B, the Parti Québécois, which essentially is saying, if we separate, everything will be fine, even though right now, within the Federation, we're facing problems being part of Team Canada because we're being faced by this United States, which has suddenly become hostile. So I'm not entirely sure a lot of the, how can I put it, cherished traditions of Quebec politics may survive this next by-election on March 17th. I think the PACs are going to have to look over their shoulders. And as I say, if the Liberals play it right, even if they don't win, if they beat the CAQ, guess what? That's almost as good as a win.
So I'm just wondering, though, if you take this to the Liberals as kind of driving up the middle and maybe having a chance, they need a high-profile person in a spot like this, or a middle-profile person at least.
Well, they've already chosen their candidate. Okay, and I think that the real test now is no matter who that candidate is, and I'm sure the person they have running is a very worthy candidate, Aaron. This is the test right now for the party to be able to turn around and say we have the organization, we have the messaging. We should have people like leadership candidates. Be not talking about what they'll do, but what the Liberals can do with this by-election, what the Liberals can do for the people of Terrebonne. Make your case that way. Make your case in real time rather than this absolutely arrogant, stupid, and downright dangerous schedule that, don't worry, we'll get back to you in June when our leaders chose it. No. The world is not sitting still for the Quebec Liberal Party. So quite frankly, I think it's their election, their by-election to profit from, or not profit from. But frankly, I think they should be, if they haven't already started, they should be devoting one hell of a lot more time to planning a potential victory in Terrebonne rather than shrugging and saying, no, give us a few more months and we'll get back to you.
Candidate there for the Liberals, Jim, is Virginie Bouchard. She's 27. Yeah. She's 27 years old.
Yeah. There you go.
So we shall see. What's it?
Hey, listen. We had people. I remember back in the day, we had, Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois winning for Québec Solidaire, and no one heard of him, but all of a sudden he was front and center. This is it. Take your party, take your candidate, make her front and center in this. Make her the symbol of what you can do for Quebec, and stop turning around and saying, like I say, The Liberals seem really good at turning their backs on everyone. Their core supporters, Anglos, have been doing it for years. But to do that to the rest of the province, if you guys still want to be around after the next election, I think you should smarten up and start doing your job and start doing it in time for March 17th.
Jim, I started the show today by doing something completely different, talking Valentine's Day, asking people how they met, online dating, whatever. What are you and the missus up to tonight? Can I ask? You have a big Valentine's Day plan?
After more than 4 decades of matrimonial bliss, we will be doing as absolutely little as possible. Okay? Although we do wish each other a happy Valentine's Day. We ask every day, every Valentine's Day, we ask if we will be each other's Valentine. We've been doing that, as I say, for more than 4 decades. I'm interested for a wet behind the ears newlywed like yourself, though. How have things been? Because I know that your charming spouse's birthday was also this week, so you kind of got a double-barreled challenge looking at you.
Yeah, it was. We went out for dinner then. I think dinner tonight's going to be at home. But, she's my new wife. It's been just,
That's right.
But we've been together, Jim, for 15 years, so that doesn't really count.
But when marriage changes everything, Aaron. I don't know if you realize that, And I'm really hoping, I like the way you said we went out for dinner last night. I really hope when you say, we'll be having dinner, I hope you're going to be doing some of the cooking there, bad boy.
Look at the time. James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Good luck.
Have a good one.